A decade back, only 20% of the people were using and registered on the banking institutions. And today, through UPI, more than 80% of the people are on the banking systems. The man behind this, from Aadhaar to UPI to digital locker, has been transforming several sectors, including the education sector. Dr. Pramod Varma, the architect of India's digital transformation, is now looking at how do we transform the transportation sector, specifically the public transport systems, with the electrification that has been driving these changes. He has been instrumental in setting up multiple solutions and architects that have really transformed the way we reimagine our lives. Today, Dr. Varma joins me, Pawan Mulukutla, Executive Director of the Integrated Transport, Clean Air and Hydrogen Program at WRI India, to delve into how DPI can transform the public transport ecosystem and what is its potential, what are the building blocks, and what is the architecture to really reimagine this approach. Dr. Pramod Varma, it's great to have you in this conversation. And, we're talking about bringing transformative changes to the public transport system, specifically the bus based system in India, which transmits crores of people on a daily basis. We have almost close to 2.4 million vehicles operating. I just have a few couple of questions on how DPI, the digital public infrastructure, can transform the public transport ecosystem in India. As you're aware that the current public transport ecosystem is very fragmented, it is leading to inefficiencies, and then also scaling is becoming a challenging. And with the whole electrification, how do you think that DPI can address some of these challenges?
Yeah, lovely to be here, Pawan. This is a conversation we have had, you and I and teams have been having for a while. Just to give a quick backgrounder for the people who don't or have not fully caught up with DPI or digital public infrastructure movement. It's all started with Aadhaar, then subsequently DigiLocker, eSign, UPI, of course, which has been a huge success in India. But these are going back to your point, actually, the DPI thinking is the idea that we can create really something minimal as a public good or a public infrastructure, but allow all kinds of innovation on top of that. But with the digital infrastructure, what we saw, at least in the West, is that post-internet, much of the digital infrastructure has been private sector led, whether it's called cloud computing or mobile computing or AI these days. Everything is completely quite a large big tech play. Now, it creates a little bit of a problem for developing nations like India because twofold issues. One, we are very, very large and diverse, as you said. Even in transport, it's not transport, it's everywhere else. Crazy size. And it's like size is, people don't understand the magnitude of India's size and complexity. And now you add all kinds of diversity into it. Economic diversity, cultural diversity, language diversity, literacy diversity, religious diversity. We are just one crazy country. And it's just one good, fun, crazy country. Now, it's also our strength, funnily. But the problem with this is that no uniform approach works for India. So if you try to build one app, it doesn't work. One portal, it doesn't work because the whole country needs very, very different diversity, diverse solutioning. This is what actually our DPI journey has shown. Transport sector is no different, especially urban transport sector. Same issue going on. Extremely fragmented, inefficient, the words you used in the question, sort of a low-performing equilibrium. And along with that, now you combine private sector transport operators who, I think, Pawan, you were telling me, typically 4 or 5 buses at best they have. Each operator has 4 or 5 buses. So there's no real large player or anything like that. It's very fragmented, very small. It's the same as the SME kind of a play in the transport sector as well. What is the issue with this? Issue with this, as we said, extreme inefficiency, no uniformity, um, efficiency is low, and on top of the customer convenience is broken, very much. So if I want to take a metro, then last mile auto rickshaw or take a bus, somehow even getting the schedule right is getting hard. Now, if you really look at the DPI thinking, your question, can DPI thinking be applied? I would vehemently argue that, in fact, DPI approach is the only way you can rescue yourself from this low performing, inefficient, fragmented environment we have by creating a minimal set of standards, open protocols that allow the entire supply side ecosystem to be integrated seamlessly with demand side ecosystem by using a private sector energy or market energy, but on top of a set of open standards and so on, so that we don't end up with a monopoly or anything like that. So absolutely, I don't see any other way. We are going to rescue
No,
ourselves.
this is brilliant and fantastic to hear. I've also heard always you talk about composability and other principles as core fundamentals of how we reimagine DPI. What do you exactly mean by this?
It basically means to build a final solution. So, now, solution means it solves something and unlock value for some set of people. But because of the diversity, the solution that's needed for uh, lady in a tier 3 town or a village who might not have studied in school or not gone to a school versus a slightly maybe high school pass person who is maybe in a tier 2 tier cities who are delivering something in Zomato, or a completely an urban person, urban poor versus urban rich, middle class. It's just craziness. That actually means when someone who will build these solutions, entrepreneurs, and where entrepreneurs don't build, like extreme long tail, you know, where entrepreneurial profit or anything like that may not exist at all. In that case, government can also build it. So it's not that government should not build solutions; they can also build solutions, but leave it to private sector as well to build solutions. Now, when someone builds a solution, the builder of the solution need to assemble a set of capabilities into their solution. They might have to check the identity, then they might have to show a schedule, and then they might have to book a ticket, and then they might have to collect money, and then they might have to deliver something else. Maybe they deliver travel insurance along with that. But if you dramatically reduce the cost of innovation and cost of solutioning by creating pre-created building blocks and giving it to them, then their ability to these compose their solution using the ingredients that exist already, you know, becomes faster and cheaper for them. When it's faster, cheaper, we will have a thousand flowers blooming, thousands of solutions coming, because it is easy to build solution. It is affordable to build solution, and a young entrepreneur can say, "Oh, I can also build a solution and still be profit." Right? That is idea of composability, that ability for us to offer a set of building blocks to the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, so that like identity, payment, all these blocks we are providing, maybe ticketing in the case of, we'll talk a little more in the next couple of questions or so, ticketing, scheduling, all that thing is required for mobility space, urban transport space. If these building blocks are available, app builders can build it, compose them, and build it extremely fast. In a month, they can solve build a solution. Maybe in local language, maybe in Maithili or Konkani or some speaking language for some local provider to book a bus or something like that. And that would be a brilliant way to solve this inefficiency and fragmentation.
Fantastic. Now, moving on to the whole nuances, in the bus system with the electrification, we'll see that there is a schedule layer. There will be the whole GPS to help us understand the location, and the schedules will be
Exactly.
timetables
Yeah.
that will come from either the public operator or private operator. Then we have, of course, the ticketing systems. And now we have the whole battery data and information that we come upon, and the charging infrastructure. So, how do you think all these building blocks that you're talking about would actually unfold in this new DPI architecture that we are talking about?
So if you want to think DPI, if you want to apply DPI thinking to transport sector, you would start unbundling the core uh, problem statement, not solutions, problem statement. What are the large set of problems that prohibits a high efficiency, high performing system? What is stopping? Then you start actually knowing, oh, there is no standards for scheduling to publish a schedule, or there is no standard to book a ticket. There is no means. It's all fragmented. Book a ticket in Kochi, in small city with a private sector, and all is completely broken. Nobody can book a ticket. You have to get into the bus and buy ticket, mostly with cash. That's all you can do. So we start unbundling the problem. Always first one is open standards and specifications, without which no interoperability. Interoperability comes from specifications and standards. If you don't, otherwise, that the way independently a tire fits into the car is because the specification for the tire to fit into the car has been standardized, so that the tire companies can independently build tires and car companies can independently build cars without bilaterally talking to each other. And when your tire goes bust, you can simply walk into a tire shop and replace it without talking to the car companies ever, because these interfaces have been standardized. The second set, then you can ask the question, are standards good enough? If we build the standards, will the private sector now be able to solve the rest of the problems? Then we ask the question ourselves, how do we incentive align them? If Because UPI was a classic example where we wrote the specification, literally 1.5 pages of specification, on top of which private sector and private banks and private sector apps built it. But here we may not have incentive enough. We may not have enough startups playing in this space. So we have to ask the question, how do we incubate and induce to hackathons and grants some new set of startups like the UPI moment? Here also in transported UPI moment, can we create new phone pays of the world equivalent, in the transport sector? But we might say, you know what, because not all parts of the transport sector is managed by public sector, private sector, there are some public sector pieces which we might have to build. So specification first, a necessary thing. Software components, good to have because you can accelerate. After that, it is all about planning the market making of it. And that is very, very
So
key.
it's fascinating to always hear you. I have a question building upon this, Dr. Verma. I've always heard you talk about, this is not a stack. Let's not get confused about it. It's an hourglass approach that we are talking about. What does this hourglass approach really mean?
So, it's for the uninitiated, it is a little bit nuanced. But the idea is this. A what is a stack? Then you tend to stack up, right? One on top of each other. But typically, that's not how solutions are constructed. That strong dependency layer, like that, is also a little bit dangerous. We want it to be composable. The earlier point I was saying, composability in any form or fashion, not in a strict order that you and I will design. So our job should be to not think strictly like a stack and solution, is to think about a set of necessary building blocks, independent building blocks like Lego blocks in a basket, and tell the ecosystem, here is a basket of Lego blocks, and here is the incentive that you can align. You compose in any form or shape the way you need to form. And a bus solution might be very different from a metro solution, very different from a electric bike or a taxi or auto rickshaws and many other. And a multimodal integrated system is what we are keen about. So hence, we can't have a pre-notion of a stack or a form of shape. The shapes have to be composed by the solution maker from time to time. In 2025 solution won't be 2030 solution. We should be able to, like children, we should be able to change the Lego block shape a little bit, take three pieces out and put new two pieces, and we should be able to keep going, right? In the next 15, 20 years. So I think the idea of notion is that, and when it comes to hourglass, it's a very powerful notion that for the DPI builders. And I'll give you two broad examples. People who have tracked shipping industry know this history of container standardization. Once upon a time, there was no standardization of boxes and packages that used to get shipped. And this lack of standards meant the people who are packing would pack it in random shapes, and people who transport to the shipyard will have to transport, carry that in random shapes and no particular form of factor. So there, everything is inefficient, and they will carry it to shipyard. When you stack it in shipyard, waiting for the ship to come, because there are no shapes or forms for these boxes, it will be all piled up and stacked up in random place, because small ones have to be on top, somehow different sizes and shapes and forms, triangle boxes, square boxes, big boxes, small boxes, random stuff used to pile up. After all that thing, when the ship comes, loading is inefficient, because now people are loading is no more, no single crane, or small boxes, big boxes all exist. The ship is unoptimal, because the now a lot of volume is wasted, because you can't pack it beautifully when you use the random shaped boxes, right? So the inefficient one person at that time thought, what if we create a standard container, one or two standards container size? That's all. He just defined one or two container size. And what happened is that the container building guys will always build thousands of such boxes, standard container. Now, the supply side, people who are manufacturing and packing would dump it inside one of these container. It didn't matter what the inside the container shape was, as long as the container is standard shaped. The moment that happens, shipyards will have a standardized warehouses, standardized. You have seen shipyards today piling up massive cranes and mass, because containers were standardized. So you can stack, and good crane standard thing. Ships were very, very optimal now to transport that and to the other side. Now this contain now look at this. This forms an hourglass architecture, where hourglass is like a top wide, wine glass like, and the bottom also wide, right? Now the container standard is in the middle. So somebody standardized the middle portion, both supply side, manufacturing and transportation side, and demand side, shipping and delivery side, all got standardized. Everybody could independently build things that are without bilaterally talking to each other. The beauty of hourglass architecture, I'll end there, is that if we can get to define the neck of the hourglass through a set of standards, and you can create exponential effect effect both on the supply side of it. That means battery charging, depot, bus depot, all that side of the part of the transport industry or urban transport industry, to the demand side, which is ticketing, scheduling, tracking, multimodal transport, insurance, transport insurance, blah, 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 all on the demand side. Both can be unbundled and independently innovated by the ecosystem, if we can get beautifully to the cusp or the neck of the hourglass. So the beauty is that minimalism and the standardization of the neck. That will be a powerful way to think about it.
Brilliant. I think you have defined the architecture so well. My last question to you, do you see with the kind of architecture we're talking about, we can see, India's e-bus journey has been very successful and many countries have been really talking about it with the discovery of new business models. Do you see that we can scale up like, 100x or more to bring, electrify not just public sector but private sector? Do you think DPI is the solution to go forward with?
So I would not say DPI is the solution, but DPI is the approach. DPI thinking is the way to unbundle this complexity of 100x. If you assume we can simply put some RFP, get some one few more, and go the traditional route, you will get 5x, 10x, or also you will get such growth after 1 decade, 2 decade. So it will be both low scale and long tenure. That's what will end up happening. You will take longer and you'll still scale small. If you want a hockey stick like 100x scale in less than a decade, compressed timeline, because we want to go electric and we want urban transport to be solved. So if you want that hockey stick exponential effect, I would argue that there is no other way to think but to apply DPI thinking and to unbundle both supply side ecosystem, incentive aligned private entrepreneurs and charging stations and everybody through a set of standards and specifications as the core neck of the hourglass, where everybody can build, many people can build supply side support like charging, bus depot, scheduling software, blah, 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 all the supply side, and also on the demand side, booking, ticketing, insurance, and all those products that people want to build. We would have no other way to think like UPI. If you want a UPI moment, then you have to apply DPI thinking. But I think it's possible because India has experienced it. India has experience of building it multiple times. And we should not be shy of attempting this. And with the WRI's leadership, with Beacon Protocol, some of the effort we are doing with ONDC and other people, I think we have laid the enough backbone for us to be able to address this, you know, transport industry specific DPI. Perfect timing. And wish WRA team and rest of the team, volunteer team. I know you have assembled a set of volunteers from Beacon and WRI and so on. All the best. I look forward to seeing this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pramod Varma. It was wonderful talking to you, and thank you for enlightening on the DPI approach to really transform the public transport sector. Thank you for
All
your
the
time.
best, Pawan. Look forward to reading the paper as well. Thank you.
Thanks.